On this edition of Sightings, a deadly force of nature changed her life.
Dreaming, seeing pictures.
Now, police need her help.
And no one can find him.
To speak with the dead.
I'm in 8 foot of water. Come get me.
Ben.
I can tell you that the Earth is going to open up.
His predictions have come true. Now, he says there are catastrophic changes coming in the year 2000 and later. A connection to the past through dreams.
Are there unusual special properties about these ancient monuments?
Scientists call it the Dragon Project. And then, is this an alien craft? New information suggests it's something else. Plus, a remarkable story about the power of healing. And why did the government stop its search for extraterrestrial life?
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. There are certain people who seem to have a special psychic gift. They don't advertise with a 900 number or with a sign in their front yard. They are a remarkable group of super-sensitive individuals who all seem to share a similar psychic power. But the way they believe they became psychic is as different as each individual.
We don't know how it works. I mean, if we did, it wouldn't be mysterious. If we knew how it worked, it wouldn't be controversial. If we knew how it worked, we'd be using it reliably. Let's face it, we don't know very much about how anything up here really works.
Greta Alexander is one of the world's most respected psychics. She's gained the trust of law enforcement officials worldwide for her astounding work as a psychic detective. Greta claims her mysterious abilities came to her suddenly, in an instant. Today, she was struck by lightning.
And after that, things began happening. I would sense, and I would know, and I would feel. And from that moment on, I began dreaming, seeing pictures, which I know now is clairvoyance, and hearing, which is clairaudio, and just feeling inside, which is clairsensory. And that's how it all started.
For the past 30 years, Greta has been sought after by police and victims' families for help with unsolved cases. But sometimes Greta is the initiator. She'll have a vision, seemingly out of nowhere. That was the case in 1993, when a cataclysmic flood swept through Kelowna, Illinois, and Greta saw one of its victims.
And he was just waiting for me to come and get him.
Yeah, that's exactly what you told me.
Yeah. Come and get me. Come and get me, John. Come and get me.
The last thing I can remember is, his patch on the side of his shirt hanging on, trying to get him above water, which I couldn't. We both went under. I couldn't hang on any longer, and I had to let him go.
Ty Massey was only 23. He was a rising star in the Kelowna Police Department with a happy home life and a baby on the way. But it all ended for Ty in a rush of river water during a rescue operation.
He was in the air when I seen him, and he hit the ground right at the water line and started floating out into the river. He became unconscious, and that's what caused Ty to not be able to save himself.
By dawn, all hope of finding Ty alive was lost, while his fellow officers dragged the river for his body. 200 miles away, Greta had a vision.
One of the people had called my office and had said that they had heard on the radio that there was an officer that was down or that was in the water and needed help. So immediately I felt that I was Ty, and immediately I had to call to tell them.
As we talked, we went on, and she used the terms "I'm" in the water, and "I'm falling." I hit my head.
I think John was a little mind-boggled by the whole thing, and you could tell in his voice.
I had more important things, I thought, at that time. We had 200 rescuers, we had dive teams, dogs teams, we had helicopters in the air. So we had a lot of things that was going on that I felt was way more important at that time.
That afternoon, John Swan was continuing to direct recovery operations from shore. Greta was home, trying to stick to her normal routine, but the vision stayed with her.
Many times, even when I'm working a case, I'll be making spaghetti, be cooking in the kitchen, or, doing other things, holding the telephone up to my ear, running the vacuum, or putting clothes in the laundry, and yet directing the people. You separate yourself. Your mind, you separate yourself.
But back in Kelowna, the loss of S.E.T.I Massey hit the town hard. His family waited in the painful limbo of not knowing.
It was unbelievable. To think that you lost a child was unbearable, but to think that your child was in the river and no one can find him, it's indescribable.
Greta continued to call the Kelowna authorities, trying to convince someone, anyone, that she knew where to look for S.E.T.I. Finally, the skeptical fire chief had to admit that Greta's visions were proving to be very accurate.
I'm in 8 foot of water, come get me. And I was so upset with John. He just wouldn't do what I told him to do.
I didn't let all this known to everyone because I didn't want basically the public to get the wrong impression that John Swan uses psychics to do all his rescue. I says, that's the case, we might as well eliminate a lot of our equipment and just have Greta come sit at our fire station.
And I just felt like I got to go up there and do this because he isn't doing it.
I picked up the cellular phone and I was talking, and it was Greta again. She says, John, she stopped for a second, and she says, you're near the water, aren't you? And I was standing right at the river. And I said, yes, I'm next to the river. She stopped for a second. She says, I'm just down from that big yellow-green thing, or that big yellow thing, or green structure, or something big and yellow by you. I go, I got her this time. I said, okay, we're going to go back out. And thanks, Greta. I hung up the phone. And I said, she's messed up this time. And I turned around, and there was a big yellow-green fire truck right behind me. And I go, oh, wow. You know, so at that time, I'm getting very nervous. And because there's too many things she's saying that made sense.
Greta had gotten through. All that was left was to guide the chief to S.E.T.I Massey.
I told one of my new firefighters, get a pike pole, which is a pole with a hook on it, about 12, 15 foot long, go down to the 3rd brush pile above the railroad bridge, and get inside the brush pile, and you have to go deep, about 8 foot down, and hook S.E.T.I Massey and pull him out. They went up to the North Command Post, got a pike pole, went down to that brush pile, reached in, and pulled S.E.T.I out.
Greta takes very little credit for her work. She says she gives herself over to a higher power, which she calls her angels.
I always thank my angels because they bring it to me. And I always bless them and the family, because I think if that were me, I would want them to leave no stone unturned in order to close that door.
It's actually relatively common that people who see themselves as gifted view their gifts as being not really their own, but something brought to them by spirit guides. We have to realize is that psychic ability, when it comes to the surface, is not that easy to deal with.
But Greta is at peace with her ability. Although she first saw S.E.T.I as a drowning man, gasping for his last breath, months later she had another vision of S.E.T.I, reaching out from beyond the grave.
I think she called to our house. She said that she had saw S.E.T.I, and I can't remember exact words, but said he was so excited. It was like he had something to announce, something to say, and I just started crying, and I said, Greta, we just had our grandson.
And that was the announcement from Spirit. God had said, S.E.T.I's baby had just been born, a new life.
Coming up next on Sightings.
We are now going to start seeing a brand new pattern.
There are episodes of very rapid change occurring in the Earth.
In 1993, Sightings introduced viewers to futurist Gordon Michael Scallion. He made some disturbing predictions about major Earth changes that would soon begin to shift our planet's tectonic plates. Well, beginning with the Northridge, California earthquake, January 17th of 1994, a pattern of seismic earth changes seems to support Scallion's predictions.
The future. We want to know what it holds, if only for the reassurance that our lives on Earth will be safe from catastrophe. But sudden changes to our planet are on the horizon, according to futurist Gordon Michael Scallion.
I can tell you that the Earth is going to open up in California, and I can tell you exactly where it will open up.
Scallion made this prediction in early 1993, nearly 1 year before the devastating Northridge quake.
It will occur in the greater Los Angeles region. The bridges and highways, especially the bridges that cross other bridges, will come down. The damage will be extensive.
Scallion was right. Los Angeles was rocked by the worst earthquake ever recorded in the area. Recently, we anxiously returned to Scallion's rural New Hampshire retreat to find out if the monster quake had altered his bleak outlook for the future.
But Northridge was a quite different quake. The most significant thing was that it was a vertical quake, which we had been predicting for 2 years. The warning was, watch for vertical quakes. When they start, then the domino effect will occur, in particular 94 and 95. And then it will increase each year, literally tenfold. So by 96 and 97, it literally will change the face of the Earth.
The result of these cataclysmic earth changes are illustrated in Scallion's future map of the United States. It shows a terrifying version of America, much of it underwater, as we approach the year 2000.
As I look to the year 98, 99, 2000, what I see by that time is that many of the major changes have already occurred. The Ring of Fire is the predominant pattern or the predominant region of the globe that I'm focused on.
The entire western coast of North America falls well within this Ring of Fire. It's a huge section of the Earth's crust made up of highly active plates, which lie underneath the Pacific Ocean.
The next major warning sign that would indicate significant, unprecedented changes for America will occur in the Cascades region. Should Mount Rainier become active, then we will see a breaking up of the complete west coast as to make islands where there was permanent landmass.
Scallion's vision may seem alarmist to many, but the sobering truth is that reports of significant Earth changes are on the rise. There have been an estimated 20,000 earthquakes and volcanic eruptions within the Ring of Fire in the past year, including major disasters in Indonesia and the Sea of Japan.
The Ring of Fire is active, has been active, but it's accelerating. We are now going to start seeing a brand new pattern, and the new pattern is that areas that were never active, where we never expected there were faults, we're going to now start seeing land movement there.
Perhaps the most frightening of all is the fact that mainstream seismologists and geologists are also lending support to Scallion's theories. Thomas Henye is director of the Southern California Earthquake Center.
Up until very recently, the dominant view amongst geologists and geophysicists with respect to how the world behaves is that things change gradually with time. But we're beginning to see more and more that there are episodes of very rapid change occurring in the Earth from time to time.
Are we in just such a period of rapid change? Is the domino effect in recent Earth changes a harbinger of bigger catastrophes just months away? Gordon Michael Scallion says yes, but also understands he has a responsibility for the predictions he makes.
I tend to wait until I see things occur over and over again in my visions before I make a statement on it.
Dire predictions about the future of planet Earth may grab the headlines, but not all the news coming from futurists is bleak. On upcoming editions of Sightings, we'll bring you more predictions that offer hope for a brighter future.
When Sightings continues.
Natural location can affect people's behavior.
Is there something about the actual site memory?
The pyramids, Lourdes, Stonehenge, places of power that for centuries have had an inexplicable attraction. What makes these places so special? Earth scientist Paul Devereaux believes sacred sites may give off an energy that affects people subconsciously. To prove his theory, Devereaux is conducting a long-term experiment called the Dragon Project. He's documenting the dreams of people who volunteer to sleep at sacred sites.
Why do people come from all over the world to stare at this pile of rocks? Why do people have spontaneous hallucinations inside this 5,000-year-old cavern? Paul Devereaux believes it's not history or superstition that creates a sacred site. It's something in the rock, some kind of magnetic energy or radiation that changes people physically and emotionally.
Is there something about the actual site memory, if you like, the actual place memory of a monument that can affect us in subtle ways that we're not directly conscious of?
But how can a scientist prove that energy from these sites affects the subconscious? Devereaux believes the way in is through our dreams. Dreaming is the one universal experience shared by every man, woman, and child since the beginning of time. While the physical body rests, the mind shuttles through a surreal movie that's meaning is still not understood. Are we simply processing random brain waves, reacting to a rich dessert eaten before bedtime? Or are dreams the window into the essence of our consciousness? Devereaux believes the latter and is testing his theory by having volunteers spend the night at several sacred sites throughout England. When rapid eye movement is observed, the volunteers are awakened and their dreams recorded.
In your own time, Tom, you can tell me a little bit of what you've been experiencing.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's all coming clearer.
Yeah.
We're not interpreting their dream for them, but what we are doing is looking at a site, and if we say, okay, there's 20 people had perhaps 40 dreams here, is there anything in those dreams that is specific just to this site?
World-renowned dream expert Dr. Stanley Krippner is assisting in the collation and analysis of the dreams. Krippner has seen the effects of radiation on dream subjects in the laboratory, but this is the first ever field study. Together, they visit the sites chosen for the Dragon Project.
I've measured the interior of this chamber and also the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and they're identical because, of course, the King's Chamber is also clad in granite, Aswan granite. And it just makes us wonder a little if that was a factor, if it helped create an environment where altered states could develop, visionary states. Because on the Dragon Project, we have had a few examples of spontaneous occurrences of people suddenly having very, very vivid, very short-lived hallucinations. And they've always been in areas of high radiation.
I think that he is one of the few people who is looking into the impact and the influence of natural radiation on people's consciousness.
Madron Well is another supernatural site. Since the 6th century, people have come here, looked into the waters, and reportedly seen the future. Madron Well was the inspiration for the entire project, because it was here that Devereaux himself had an extraordinary dream.
I had a dream in which I just saw a pair of hands just in front of me, and they were dipping into the water. And the water came up dripping, and in the dream, the hands massaged around the eyes in a particular way. And I immediately woke up, and I went over to the water in the corner and went through those very actions that I'd seen in the dream.
Would Dragon Project volunteers have the same dream? If so, this could prove his theory of site-specific dreaming. At Carnuni, the ruins of an ancient Cornish village, Devereaux and Krippner examined the site of that evening's dream session.
The granite, because we're underground, and the granite walls, the ceiling, these great slabs here, give out a lot of radioactivity, so the radon level in here is much higher than outside.
We do have evidence from psychology that if you put somebody in a special chamber and alter the level of radioactivity or alter the electrical field, they will begin to have unusual experiences. They will see things, they will feel things, they will even sometimes hear voices. So I'm here to give advice in terms of collecting, scoring dreams, and to see what objects come up in the dreams, and to find out if indeed there are certain clusters of things and objects that relate to one place that do not relate to another geographical location.
That night, volunteers for the dream session arrived at Carnuni to begin their part of the research project.
Tom, can you just gradually open the surface a little? Yeah, no, hang on, don't disturb yourself too much, yeah? Yeah. I think you've been having a dream. Yeah. Well, hold on for a moment while I just turn the tape recorder on, and then you can tell me about it, okay? Hold on a sec.
The Dragon project is ongoing and will continue into 1995. While the analysis is not complete, some intriguing information is already surfacing.
If Paul does get some very striking results, it's yet another example of how a natural location can affect people's behavior.
If the natural radiation in these sacred sites is proven to have a measurable effect on our minds, the implications are far-reaching. Are we truly the product of our environment? And what other forces of nature are shaping our subconscious? Will it one day be shown that the phosphorus in the seas, the chlorophyll in the rainforests, and sadly, the ozone in the air make us who we are?
Paul Devereaux expects to complete the first stage of the Dragon project within the next year. All of the dreams that he's collected will then be turned over to Dr. Stanley Krippner for collation and analysis at the Saybrook Institute in San Francisco.
Coming up next on Sightings, new theories on a UFO crash in Canada. And a boy beats the odds with a miracle cure. Later, why did the government abruptly shut down the search for extraterrestrials?
On past episodes, Sightings investigated videotape of an alleged UFO supplied by an anonymous source known only as Guardian. Well, at first, the so-called Guardian tape of what appears to be a UFO crash landing looked very convincing. But as we moved deeper into the investigation, our questions started to outnumber the answers.
These images were touted as some of the best photographic evidence of UFOs ever recorded. A videotape with several short scenes cut together arrived at the Sightings offices with no return address. The label on the videotape had only one word: Guardian. Who was Guardian? And had he or she actually captured a UFO crash landing on videotape? Some experts now believe Guardian was part of the U.S. government's rumored UFO disinformation program. They believe that hoaxes and absurd tabloid headlines are planted by the Pentagon to discredit ufologists and keep the prying eyes of the public away from what they're really doing. Sightings has conducted numerous experiments where we found it relatively simple to create an intriguing UFO photograph. Is our government doing the same? In 1991, a small community outside of Ottawa, Canada, was thought to be the site of Guardian's elaborate hoax.
What you have is a little rural community in eastern Ontario, close to Ottawa, called Mannion Corners, a little tiny place, maybe 50 or 60 families live there. And in 1991, somebody decided that they would put together this UFO hoax and put out a video.
After the videotape was distributed worldwide, official-looking documents began to surface. Some were written on Canadian government stationery. Then, still photographs of supposedly extraterrestrial creatures were released. These were an obvious tip-off that a hoax was being perpetrated. So we enlisted the help of MUFON Canada's Assistant Director, Tom Theophanis, and photo analyst Jeff Sainio.
The documents are purported to be Department of National Defense Canadian military documents, but just a quick read of them shows that they're obviously falsified. So you see statements like, insatiable sex drive, their women prefer human partners. Blonde types infiltrate the artistic centers of Canada. It appears they need artists to get the message out. These obviously such hokey documents that there's no doubt that these are falsified. Once we know that, we have to go back and take a look at the video and say, since we know that Guardian is a hoaxer, is there anything exceptional in this video that could not have been hoaxed by a fairly motivated person? I couldn't find anything.
Well, and here you see two light sources. One coming in from the area of the flares. There is producing this reddish glow. and a source that's mainly off the ground, an external source of lighting, and you also have the strobe light on top, which you can see the actual shape of it.
Here we're seeing what appear to be 4 road flares. You can see the smoke wafting off toward this direction the same way that we see on the UFO later on. Over here the UFO is badly overexposed. You really can't make out any detail. There's no motion there, nothing but a strobe light on top that's anything out of the ordinary.
What would it take to duplicate these images? Sightings asked a special effects team to try and recreate the Guardian video. They used a scale model helicopter, an asbestos-lined truck, and road flares.
Okay, you want to show me?
First, the team placed the helicopter in a position similar to that on the Guardian video. Next, technicians set up a strobe light and road flares to match those used in Canada. Special effects smoke was added, and the result is not unlike that in the original Guardian video. Depending on how much smoke was added, the silhouette of the helicopter could look like a UFO crash landing. We tried to improve on these images using a pickup truck and the same basic flare and smoke effects. Again, the images were similar, but lacked the sophistication of the original tape. The alien creature was much easier to duplicate. A 10-year-old girl, a rubber head, and black and white film was all we needed. To the untrained eye, these creatures might seem like the real thing, and that's just what the hoaxers want you to believe. But who are they? Psychotherapist Dr. Howard Schachter explains his theory.
It's been said, of course, that hoaxerism is all about personal gain. Very often, the hoaxer is aware of what's at stake. The individual's aware that there's something they're going to gain from all of this. They want to be a part of this great phenomenon. And they're used to, let's say, aggrandizing their self-esteem by virtue of seeing that the Guardian event is on every TV channel.
But is it realistic to believe that the Guardian videotape, the forged documents, and the photographs were all the work of one individual longing for fame? Or could it be that Guardian is part of a larger conspiracy fueled by our own government?
How do experts separate reality from hoax? Joining me now is Michael Lindemann. He is an independent analyst whose company, the 2020 Group, conducts in-depth UFO investigations. There are a lot of people who believe that disinformation is part of the conspiracy and cover-up that surrounds the dismissal of UFOs by governments. Is there any information that disinformation exists in the videos themselves, that somehow high-tech's being used to persuade or dissuade people?
I think that we have seen some possibly extraordinary videotape that was probably, you could say, disinformation. The so-called Guardian case from Canada would be, I think, in that category.
Is there any evidence that any government is involved in that sort of disinformation?
Well, I can't speak for the videotape part of it, but as for other forms of disinformation, I would have to say almost certainly yes. Governments are involved in creating the illusion of certain events or effects that are probably hoaxes. If it's possible to penetrate the hoax immediately, and if UFO researchers proclaim it a hoax, I think in some ways that helps the cause. At least it proves that not everyone is duped by this.
Michael Lindemann, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more sightings in just a moment.
When Sightings continues, a remarkable story of a young boy who baffled doctors.
He thought he was going to die.
Prayer, a time of meditation and reflection, is part of nearly every belief system in the world. For millennia, people have drawn great strength from these private moments of concentrated thought. Now, physician Larry Dossey is finding tangible evidence that many forms of prayer can not only heal the spirit, but heal the body as well.
A loved one teeters on the brink of death. While doctors do everything they can, the family feels helpless. All they can do is pray. But now clinical tests are proving that those prayers can work miracles. They did for 6-year-old Taylor Hall.
It was very tragic for our family. It was a bright sunny day. He took his skates out, and then my son Chris was in the front bedroom, and he heard the truck screech.
You could hear the truck coming down the corner. You could hear it as it would kind of screech, because Taylor was coming down the sidewalk, and as he hit the sidewalk, he hit a patch of rocks, and he couldn't stop himself in time.
Fire department came, and the ambulances came, and he was very sick. I think you know that the minute that you see someone who is very hurt, you know it right away. He was in a pool of blood. He lost over 4.5 units in the street, which is almost half your body's blood. And he was ripped open from his navel all the way to the back.
Young Taylor Hall's life hung in the balance. Although he had the best in medical care, no one could guarantee that the best would be good enough. Could the prayers of his family make a difference? Near Santa Fe, New Mexico, one place stands as a testament to the power of prayer. For nearly 200 years, people have come to El Santuario de Chimayo to pray, often leaving behind the crutches and wheelchairs they no longer need. Dr. Larry Dossi studies the accounts of healing by prayer that continue to this day.
The question for us in science is, can we go beyond people's stories and make anything scientific out of the personal account? That's the great challenge.
Dr. Dossi has written a best-selling book that chronicles the positive effects of prayer, a subject considered entirely anecdotal and unsubstantiated until just a few years ago.
I discovered, however, back in the mid-'80s that there were some studies coming out showing that if you take prayer into the clinic or the hospital or the laboratory and test it pretty much like you would a new medication, you can actually show that prayer does something. Religious affiliation and religious belief are not factors in these experiments.
In the 1980s, medical researchers in Oregon devised an experiment to test the power of prayer under controlled laboratory conditions. In a double-blind study, test tubes were filled with equal amounts of yeast and sealed. Half of the tubes were prayed over by volunteers, half were not. Researchers were amazed that there was a significant difference in the tubes that had been prayed over.
You can do this with extreme accuracy, and the differences in the growth rates are quite profound, favoring those that get prayed for. It frequently is the case in the history of medicine that we have known that something works before we know how it works. Penicillin was an example. When penicillin was discovered, no one had a clue about actually how it worked, but we honored the data, we did the studies, and we could show that it did something. We're at the same point with prayer. We haven't the foggiest idea scientifically how it could work, but we have taken it into the laboratory, we have done the precise studies, we have shown that it works.
Bolstered by the remarkable results found in the yeast experiment, San Francisco General Hospital launched its own Power of Prayer study. Volunteers were asked to pray for patients they did not know. 393 patients were prayed for over a 10-month period.
We had the prayers do so only outside the hospital. They never came inside the hospital, and the patients never saw them. And we didn't produce any standard prayer or prayer format.
After analyzing the data, the results were impressive.
The patients who received extra prayer from our groups outside of the hospital required less diuretic therapy, less antibiotics, and had less cardiac arrest.
In Riverside, California, Taylor Hall's family didn't know about the results of the San Francisco General study. They prayed because they felt they had to. Their little boy was dying.
His entire pelvis was crushed under the tires. I had grave doubts about being able to put his intestinal tract back together. The damage was so extensive in the pelvic area. He had huge open wounds. Again, very susceptible to infection.
There was a very good possibility that the infection that might have gotten in there would be the thing that would end up killing him. The next thing we were told was that if he made it through that, that There would be a possibility that, one, he might not be able to have children. He might have to have a colostomy the rest of his life. His ability to walk might be impeded substantially.
He thought he was going to die. I think that scared the nurses a little bit, because they said when patients think that they're going to die, then it's pretty serious.
But the family never lost their faith and dedication to prayer, that mysterious force that now has mainstream medicine rethinking its power to heal.
The fact that prayer can work says that the consciousness, the human psyche, the mind can do something that brains can't do. Therefore, the mind must, in some strange way, be more than the brain and the body. The mind has some aspect, some quality, which can reach out through space and time, as is evidenced through prayer, and make a difference at a distance.
In the end, prayer may have been the difference for Taylor Hall.
We were both at the hospital. Steve and I think, I know I did, prayed on the way to the hospital. And the family prayed as a family.
It just seemed that we were all on the same level, doing the same thing for the same purpose. And we all wanted the same thing, and that was for Taylor to recover.
And I'm fully convinced that that was every bit as important a part as what the doctors did. And not to downplay what the doctors did, but I think it was, they both worked together.
And when, after 6 days, after being ripped open, intestines all messed up, being, his back ripped open, his pelvis broken, he was walking with no cast or pins. He just, basically, it was kind of a miracle.
Yeah, I think it was a miracle. I think if somebody else had got run over and nobody prayed, then he could have died.
Well, it's my opinion that prayer helped 100%. A lot of the stuff that we were able to do as doctors was relatively simple, but the healing process was a long, extensive one with major injuries.
He's fully recovered. He doesn't have anything major wrong with him. He gets headaches now and then, but everything else on his body is normal. In fact, he's above normal. He's skating again.
The healing power of prayer is gaining a wider acceptance. Harvard, Duke, Tufts, and Stanford universities have all conducted studies linking the power of the mind and the power to heal.
When sightings returns, our government was on a search for E.T. contact. Why did they stop?
The alien signals are coming from an extraterrestrial intelligence somewhere.
In 1992, on the 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyage to the New World, NASA embarked on its own voyage to deep space. They devised a program called S.E.T.I, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Their mission? Use the world's most powerful telescopes to search for signs of life in outer space.
I think if our government knew that we got signals, a dedicated signal from outer space somewhere, they'd clamp a lid on it.
After less than a year, Congress pulled the plug on S.E.T.I. Some insiders claim it was because S.E.T.I had made contact and the government didn't want us to know what they knew.
If the powers that be knew I was talking to you, there would be a high price for me to pay.
Our anonymous source is an engineer inside the space program. He's been warned not to go public with what he knows about S.E.T.I. He recalls an earlier time when there were fewer secrets and higher hopes.
If they get nothing, it's been a worthwhile venture because we've tried. If they get something, it'll be the greatest discovery of mankind.
The search for extraterrestrial intelligence was launched October 14, 1992. Giant radio telescopes were aimed at the stars. Scientists and engineers listened to the cacophony of space noise, searching for radio signals that might indicate the presence of another advanced civilization.
It was used pretty much just like any other intelligence agency would use eavesdropping equipment, except it was pointed up towards space.
S.E.T.I was a breakthrough. After decades of rumors about covert UFO projects, the United States government not only publicly acknowledged the possibility of intelligent life in outer space, but agreed it was a possibility worth spending $100 million to explore.
It's very hard to believe that the government would allow something this extraordinary to be released to the general public without scrutiny and censorship.
Almost as soon as S.E.T.I went online, Our anonymous source claims that scientists started receiving intelligent signals from deep space. They called these artificial radio waves hits.
There were hits that were taken seriously. There were 3-4 hits, to my knowledge, that were strong, and it could potentially be a signal from an extraterrestrial intelligence on a foreign body in space.
Located in the Mojave Desert at Fort Irwin, California, Goldstone Station is a quiet, isolated place where scientists have seclusion and military security.
It's RF quiet, which means there's not a lot of background noise when they're looking for signals. And it's in an optimum area. It's very dry. It doesn't get cold. It's really ideal for this type of search.
But ideal conditions weren't enough to satisfy some in Congress. They wanted SETI stamped out. Just 1 year after the radio telescope atop Goldstone Station began directing an all-out microwave search of the universe, Congress suddenly called a halt to everything.
The SETI project, I think, was just a sacrificial lamb. It was a cheap shot for the budget posers, for the so-called deficit hawks. It's always easier to make fun of something that you or enough of your constituents don't understand.
But some believe the cancellation was a red herring, designed to keep the public from asking too many questions.
If they embrace the concept of looking for alien signals, they also have to acknowledge the fact that the alien signals are coming from an extraterrestrial intelligence somewhere. And for certain people, that's not something that they want to either believe in or allow anybody to know that they believe in.
Some close to the project allege the National Security Agency quashed SETI in an effort to suppress findings so bizarre they felt it would send the public into a media-induced panic.
Their history and action in the past is a good warning of what they would do if something like this happened.
But at the same time the government was supposedly dismantling SETI, private companies came forward with millions of dollars in donations. Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Microsoft, and others helped resurrect SETI, and from the ashes they created Project Phoenix. But rumors still abound concerning government involvement in this new incarnation of SETI.
The government likes to have control in varying degrees. They have to have control at least a little.
Perhaps most suspect of all is the fact that Project Phoenix, like its predecessor, still has ties to Goldstone Station on a military installation.
If the hits do come down, they will be suppressed, and I don't think anybody will take a chance. The government would never make that leap of faith that the public would be able to handle the fact that we are receiving intelligence signals from another race, creature, something from somewhere else.
SETI was not the only government-funded program searching for signs of intelligent life in the cosmos. JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, had begun an all-sky survey in 1993. But it, too, has been abruptly halted with no plans for resumption.
If you've had a paranormal experience, call the Sightings Hotline at 1-900-933-SIGHT. That's 1-900-933-7444. Each call 65 cents a minute. Average call lasts 3 minutes. Sightings is also online. Our email address is sightings@aol.com.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.